Good morning and welcome to another Disney photography video. If you've watched enough of my videos, you know that I am a big fan of portrait lenses here in the Disney parks because they give me a lot of reach and they usually have wide apertures and they let me focus on a lot of the small details on the rides. They let me get good photos of characters and cast members. So I've done plenty of videos on this channel about different portrait lenses and how they work, and today we're doing another one because I bought another one. I now am the proud owner of this. This is the OM System 45mm f1.2. I've been using this lens for about 3 months now and I'm really enjoying it, but it creates a bit of a conundrum for me. It's very similar to a lens that I already own and that I've used for a few years, the 75mm f1.8. They're both about the same size. They both have fast apertures. They both have a good amount of reach. So as much as I enjoy having this new lens, it does create a bit of a problem because I already have a really long, really fast prime lens. And now I gotta figure out which of these to bring on any given trip. Today I figured rather than just do a lens review, I am going to do a head-to-head battle against these two lenses, 45mm versus 75mm. And I'm gonna see which one is better for which things. I think there are gonna be some things the new lens is gonna be better at, and I think there are gonna be some things that I'm gonna still wanna reach for the old lens. It's gonna depend on squirrel. It's gonna depend on what I wanna shoot. I think the first place to go is Fantasyland. Yeah, let's go over to Fantasyland. We'll do our first test. So here in Fantasyland, the first test is going to be on Pinocchio's Daring Journey. There are 6 places on this ride where you see little Jiminy Cricket figurines. They're not very big, they're kind of far away, but there are 6 different spots where you see them, and I'm gonna try to shoot them with both of these lenses and see which one does a better job of finding and locking focus and tracking on a very small target on a very small ride. So the 6 spots you're going to see them at the very beginning of the ride, in the room with Stromboli where Pinocchio's in the cage. There's a Jiminy Cricket right there. And then you go around the corner, you're gonna see him on his umbrella kind of descending from the ceiling on your left. And then as you leave Pleasure Island, you'll see him behind a door. That's a really hard one. Then you see him next to Monstro on a little buoy that says Beware of Monstro. And then right near the end, right before you go to Geppetto's cottage, you see him descend. He's on the right and he says, "You're almost home." And then the very last one is right in the end scene with Geppetto and Pinocchio. He is up on the wall. I think he's near a bookshelf and he has his little conscience medal. I photographed both sequences with the same settings. I used my usual dark ride settings of 1/160th of a second, aperture locked open as far as it'll go, so 1.2 in the case of the 45 and 1.8 in the case of the 75. Auto ISO, center autofocus point, spot metering. So what you should also see here is lower ISO values on the f1.2 because again, it lets in literally twice as much light, and the results were as expected. The 45mm outperformed the other lens, and that might be due to a couple of things. It might be due to the fact that the 45mm is a pro lens. It might be due to the fact that because it's a pro lens, it's got a faster autofocus motor, it's a newer design. It might be due to the fact that it's an f1.2. It lets in twice as much light as the f1.8. It might also be due to the fact that it has a wider field of view, and so it's just easier to acquire the target and keep it in frame for rides like this, unless you really need the extra reach. I think the 45 is gonna be the better option, and because it's a wider field of view, it's going to be more versatile as well. The fact that it doesn't have as much reach is even less of an issue because it focuses so much faster, tracks the subject so much better, and is probably sharper. So even though you don't have the reach, you could probably crop to get those extra 60mm of equivalent reach. So now, let's grab some breakfast. All right, so while I sit down here and take a break and grab some Ronto wrap, let's talk a little bit about the technical specifications of this lens. In terms of balance and ergonomics, really nice. This is the size of the actual lens on the OM1 Mark II body. Really short, really well balanced, really light, quick and easy to point it around. It has the locking lens hood of all the Pro 1.2 primes. I'm a big fan of that fixed lens hood that locks because I don't protect the front of my lens with a UV filter. I protect the front of my lens with the lens hood. I have a nice physical barrier that keeps things from hitting the front of the lens. It also keeps light from hitting the front of the lens and causing scattering and softness and ghosting and flaring. It has a 62 millimeter filter diameter. This lens retails for about $13.99, but it frequently goes on sale for about $11.99, and you can find decent used copies in the $500 to $800 range pretty commonly. I think a lot of people buy this lens and they realize they don't really want or need a portrait lens that often, and then they sell it off again. There seems to be a lot of turnover with lenses like this and the 75 millimeters, so you don't necessarily have to pay full price. To compare that price to another manufacturer, you might be thinking $13.99, that's a lot for a lens. Even, $11.99 is a lot for a lens. Consider what Canon charges for their 85 millimeter f1.2 lens in an RF mount. They charge $2,700 for a lens with roughly equivalent reach and aperture and autofocus performance. And so this costs less than half, and it probably weighs about half of what that lens weighs, because those Canon RF lenses are absolutely gigantic. I don't know if I'd want to carry something like that around a theme park all the time, but this package is pretty small, pretty compact, really user-friendly, really travel-friendly. It's one of the things that has kept me with the Micro Four Thirds environment. It's just so much fun to use in the field. Some other advantages this lens has over the 75, this lens is weather sealed. The 75 is not, so when I went to Florida, I took this instead of the 75 because I could shoot in the rain and I didn't have to worry about any water leaking into the camera. I've never had a problem with that, but it is nice to have that little extra security of knowing that your lens is designed to be weather resistant, along with the OM1 body. It also has the manual focus clutch, which I almost never use, but if you want to do a lot of manual focus, you can do that. And it has a lens function button, so you can pre-program another button on the lens barrel to do something. Again, I have never really used that. I don't really have the need for it. So I'm not quite ready to wrap up this lens comparison just yet. There's one more thing I'd like to compare these two against each other with, but I can't do that until later today when the Christmas parade kicks off, because this 75 millimeter has been one of my go-tos for photographing nighttime parades in general, but especially ones at night, because it's got a lot of reach and it's got a wide aperture. It lets in a lot of light. So will the 45 allow me to get better photos? It'll capture more light. It'll let me use lower ISO, but will it have enough reach to still be as versatile and as useful? And are there going to be any hidden drawbacks that I haven't found out yet? So I'm going to come back around 5:15 when the Christmas parade kicks off. It'll be dark then. We'll see how it does in the dark. So I will see you after dark. And I'm back. It's nighttime now. I just finished photographing the Christmas Fantasy Parade with both lenses. I shot the first half of the parade with the 45 millimeter lens, and then I switched lenses partway through the parade and photographed the rest of it with the 75 millimeter. And I gotta say, I think depending on where you sit and how close you are and what kind of subjects you like, they're pretty evenly matched, but I think I need to give it to the 75 millimeter because it has more reach. And that, I think, is the most important thing. Is I tend to stand in the back because I'm tall. I let all the kids sit in front of me, and I'm shooting over the top of people's heads. And so those extra 60 millimeters of reach is really, really helpful for that. If you're gonna sit right in the front, right against the curb, and especially if you want to focus on photographing more of the dancers that kind of come right up to your position, up to the ropes on the side, 45 works great. But if you want to focus more on the characters that are on the floats in the middle of the street that don't move as much, you're going to want as much reach as possible. And so the longer lens, even though it doesn't let in as much light, is still going to be the better choice. And that's going to be the same for pretty much any show you're going to shoot. If you have a choice between these two lenses and you're going to photograph any kind of a show, a stage show, a parade, a dance show, a show like Fantasmic, generally the more reach you can get, the better off you're going to be. So that's probably the one thing that I will keep the 75 around for. I'm not going to probably carry it all the time, every day that I come to the park, but on those days when I really want to focus on getting shots of shows and parades, then I will throw it in the bag. But other than that, the 45mm is better in almost every way. After the parade, I also went on the Fantasyland canal boats because that is really, really fun to ride at night to try to get photographs of the tiny little model cottages on that ride. And that's where the 45 f1.2 really helps, because it's dark, you need a lot of light, and you've got to have something that focuses relatively quickly. So to wrap up, is this a better lens? Is the 45mm f1.2 better than the 75mm f1.8? Yeah, in almost every single metric, it blows the 75mm away. It just does everything better, except it doesn't have as much reach. It's literally not as long. In the cases where you need more reach, where reach is the most important thing, 75 is your friend. In almost every other case, I'm going to be reaching for the 45. This is going to be the longer lens that's going to live in my bag probably for the rest of forever, until Olympus makes a 75mm f1.2, and then all bets will be off. If you don't have either of these lenses and you're considering a longer telephoto lens for your bag, for your theme park photography especially, and if you're choosing between these two, I would also recommend choosing the 45mm f1.2 for another reason that I haven't gone into. It's more user-friendly because of all the things I mentioned, between the fact that it acquires focus faster, holds focus, and tracks better, and just works in even lower light situations, and it's a shorter focal length, so it's easier to hit targets, it's more forgiving. It's just you're gonna get a higher number of keepers with that lens than you will with the 75. You're gonna have a lot more success earlier on and be a lot less frustrated if you set yourself up with the right equipment to start with. If you start with the 75, there's a bit of a learning curve if you're not used to using long lenses in these types of environments. So it's a little more expensive, but it's worth it, and I think it's gonna hold more of its value on the used market if you buy it and decide that maybe it's not for you. So I hope that helps. Hope you enjoyed this lens battle. Maybe I'll do more of these in the future. And until then, thanks for watching, and I will see you on the next video.